Why do we resent God's generosity? Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas. And this is your daily devotional for Monday, January 19th, 2026. One of my all-time favorite parables of Jesus is the parable of the landowner who sends workers into the field at different times of the day, yet pays them all the same wage. This story will actually be the gospel reading later in September, so you'll hear more about it then. And if the story sounds especially familiar, it's because I have used it for a daily devotional before. You know the story. I won't read the whole thing here, but let me summarize the story and read the end. This is a parable about the kingdom of heaven, like many of Jesus' parables. Like several other parables, this one uses the image of a farmer. In this case, a landowner needs to hire day laborers to harvest a crop. So he goes first thing in the morning to the place where day laborers gather, since that's where you hire folks. He then hires several workers and sends them out into the field. Throughout the day, he realizes he needs more workers. So he repeats the same process at mid-morning, at noon, at mid-afternoon, and again in the late afternoon. Finally, when the evening comes, he has his business manager line the laborers up according to the time when they started, beginning with the ones who started latest in the day. Then he very openly pays them all the same wage. Naturally, each successive group that worked more hours for the same pay become more and more upset that they worked harder but didn't get paid more than the ones who worked fewer hours. Listen now to the very end of this story as it is told in Matthew chapter 20. They grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last the same as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last." This passage arouses our interest because it flies in the face of what we consider to be fundamental fairness. In the past, I've raised the question based on this passage, is God fair? And then answer, thank heavens, no. Because if God were fair and gave us all what we deserved, well, we'd all be lost. God's unfairness, in other words, works in our favor. But there's another element to this story, and it has to do with jealousy. When God is gracious and generous to people whom we think are unworthy, do we resent God's generosity? The answer is probably yes. We who have been faithful disciples all our lives have a tendency to think that the Johnny-come-latelys of the world need to stand in line, pay their dues, and wait their turn. But that is not, repeat, not how God's kingdom works. It's not about earning our way into heaven, and it's not about being more worthy than someone else. If we have to earn our salvation, there is no such thing as grace. We know this in our heads, but our hearts are still stuck in a merit-based mindset. We all know that salvation is by grace, but when the rubber hits the road, we think there really ought to be some merit system to it. So this parable is both about God's generosity and about our being stuck in a merit-based system of reward and punishment. It's not just that God is wildly generous. It challenges us to reflect on our own sense of entitlement and to put away our false sense of priority. It is a reminder that in God's kingdom, as we saw in the story of Jacob and Esau, God means to overturn our rules of fairness. The first shall be last, and the last first does not fit our worldview. but it turns out it's God's way. Now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.